Hi, how are you? Good morning. Thank you all for being here, joining us for this event. The name of the event is Elevate Your Online Presence. Use your LinkedIn for professional success with Kristen Turner. I am representing the Women Committee in this event in collaboration with Together We Advance. My name is Fernanda de la Sierra. I'm co-founder and president of YADFIT and a member of the Women Committee for US-Mexico Chamber of Commerce Inter-American Chapter. I would like to thank Antonio Peña, president of the US-Mexico Chamber of Commerce Inter-American Chapter, Carmen Richards, president of the Women Committee, Clementina Guy, executive director of the American Chapter, who is coordinating this event, and of course, Kristen Turner, president of Together We Advance, and our speaker in this event. He is VP of Digital at HSBC and president of Together We Advance, as I mentioned. With 11 years in the digital marketing business development across US, Latin America, and Europe, Chris will talk about how can we elevate and manage our LinkedIn profile, making it more visible and create more connections and networking. We are going to start, and at the end, we can answer all your questions. How are you, Chris? Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for a lovely introduction. Really excited to be with you all today. I've been using LinkedIn now for over 15 years and using it in many different business contexts. So lots of tips and hints and suggestions for our wonderful audience and of course all of the members of our chapter. So thank you to you. Thank you to Clementina for creating today's space and happy to get started.
I'm glad. Yes, super excited to hear all of the information you have for us today.
Thank you. And I think it's important, Fernanda, we'll just kind of mention this now to the audience. We're going to go through this presentation. It's going to be pretty interactive. It's going to be pretty dynamic, lots of visuals on screen. But of course, if you've got any questions as we're going through, feel very free to raise those in the Q&A. Of course, chat through to Fernanda, and we'll definitely be leaving lots of time at the end to answer your questions. We're going to give the presentation in English, but of course, we are bilingual in this chapter, myself included. So Fernanda and I are happy to take questions in Spanish, and we can happily answer those in Spanish at the end of the presentation. And also conscious that some of the questions you might have might be slightly more complex, so we can attempt to answer them today. If not, I make myself fully available to you to go through in a little bit more detail offline. So let's get started, right, Fernanda?
Right, okay.
Let's do it.
Ready.
So before we start, why are we here today? And why are we all using LinkedIn? I think it's pretty simple. We're trying to create a community of business users. We're trying to be helpful and resourceful. So, and we're also trying to find inspiration. So creating community, obviously we're linking in with all of our business associates that we're meeting. We're going to conferences, we're doing online Zoom conferences and events in this new environment that we're living in. And we're using LinkedIn basically as a Rolodex of our key contacts. And we should be doing that. You know, I normally like to accept and add at least 5 to 10 people a week. In a normal work week. That's probably 2 or 3 clients that I'm interacting with, old colleagues, old associates. And so just get into the rhythm of being open to establishing your community. We're being helpful to one another as well. I think everyone's seen during these difficult times, people that unfortunately have lost their jobs, are going through a job search. And a lot of people are resharing people's CVs. They are making themselves available for free or reduced price coaching. So again, we're using the platform to help and raise up others that we know, or frankly, maybe we don't know them. We're just trying to help others with no expectation of anything in return. And then finding inspiration, of course, is relating to the great content that we can find. And there's so many examples, and we're going to look at quite a few today of where you can get inspired around a new business product concept from something that's going on elsewhere in the world. You might find inspiration in terms of new clients, new business development opportunities. So they're the 3 kind of tenets to LinkedIn. And I'm sure the reason for you all being here today as well. You know, as we just touched on, powerful job board, great for job search, an incredible opportunity, especially for B2B brands. And I think a lot about the members of the Mexican Chamber especially our wonderful members down here in South Florida. And of course, many of you are representing and are founders or owners, like Fernanda, of your own brands. And so it's so important to have a strong professional presence on LinkedIn for your company. And actually, I think what's really important to point out is over this last 10 to 12 years, there's been a real blending of both our personal and our professional lives, but also our personal brands and our professional brands. So I think in the past, it was, let's do a LinkedIn page for my yacht business, and let me do a LinkedIn page for my personal profile, my personal career. Now the two have blended. And so we have to get comfortable of representing the firms that we work for, whether it's our own business or maybe a corporate that we work with, in a professional manner on our own profile. So we're building our brands. Of course, having a very strong LinkedIn profile is going to help rank your name on Google. So in this very competitive environment that we're in, when there's lots of competition, having a complete profile, and again, we're going to go into a lot of detail today on what a complete awesome profile looks like, it's really going to help you rank highly on Google search. We've mentioned this, gone are the days of business cards. I know we still use them. I'm sure after COVID-19, people are going to be less likely to want to pick one out of their wallet and a slightly tattered business card and pass it to somebody else. So again, LinkedIn really becomes that one go-to resource where we're collating all of our contacts. And of course, many people are using it to research companies, to see content and recommendations that have been shared, and also do some kind of espionage really on their employees and what their employees are saying and doing. Okay, so I think we all knew that, but just really, really nice to level set when it comes to the use case for LinkedIn. Now, these are some of the common mistakes that I see every day when I'm helping friends, colleagues, associates with their LinkedIn profiles. Many people aren't actually including every position. So they're just they've put something in 10 years ago, they've not updated it. Things are completely out of order. Profiles are incomplete. There's no educational history. People don't even sometimes put the city that they're located in, which is kind of crazy. So just not putting that in there is just something that we should really fix. And we're going to look at how we fix that today. Not writing job descriptions for each position. It is not okay to have a job description and a job position and not actually have included any detail or color to that job. Okay. And again, I see people go in very lackadaisical. They put their title, I've been at this firm for 3 or 4 years. They don't say anything about what they're doing. And I think we're moving towards a society where it's less important the title and actually far more important the evidence and the examples of what we do. Some people actually have very fluid titles. People have very fluid careers. They're moving in and out of different parts of an organization. So it's really important to get that color on what it is they're doing. And then people aren't doing a summary section. And it really allows us to tell our powerful elevator pitch as to who we are, what we stand for, and what we can do for others. What is the service that we provide? So common mistakes, and again, we're going to go all over those today. Again, people aren't using subheaders. People have it turned off so that their profile isn't public, and so they're not building an extensive network. And actually, people also aren't creating a personalized URL. So again, we're going to just look at all of that in today's session. So with that said, let's start with the basics. What does a good profile look like? Okay, a professional photo, a compelling headline, an awesome summary, and really, really great rich media articles that are added to your profile, articles and posts. And I know we've got some great members that are doing awesome work when it comes to posts and articles. Carmen Richards, for example, if you look at her profile, she has a wonderful cadence. She's sharing every other day, great insights on the financial services industry with her clients, with her followers, with her LinkedIn community. And so I'm sure Carmen has learned over time what content is relevant to be sharing, the tone of voice to be sharing, even down to the imagery that she's sharing. But we're going to look at rich media in a lot more detail today as well. LinkedIn profiles with a photo are 14 times more likely to be viewed and have a 40% higher in-mail response rate than those without one. Bottom line, everyone, if you don't have a photo, frankly, you're not trustworthy on LinkedIn. That's the way that individuals are thinking. So it's so important that you have one, and it's important that we have a professional one as well. So many people, especially when I'm working with kind of graduates and people starting out in their careers, are using kind of cropped photos from a night out, there's alcohol and there's a champagne glass in the corner, or there's some kind of visual distraction. It's not cool. And I don't really think there's an excuse. You know, in the past, everyone would say, oh, I've got to wait and see a photographer to get this updated. No, you don't. With an iPhone, portrait mode, and a lovely white background, you can do a great professional photo to the camera. So really absolutely no excuse to not have a professional photo on your profile. Go in and just kind of sense check it. And I just, on that note, thinking that a lot of us on today's webinar are B2B brands, a lot of us in the past had to be suited and booted. I certainly did 10, 8, 7, 5 years ago. So I'd always be having photos with suit and ties. And actually now this kind of tone, the image we can see here on screen of an open neck shirt, slightly more relaxed, slightly more casual, still business professional, is I think the tone that works best, irrespective of your industry. So really think about the tone that you're setting with the photo, okay? Think about your title. Okay, it needs to be up to date. It needs to represent what you do. So sometimes when we're working in corporates, we have really technical titles that don't really resonate externally. So I've evolved and adapted mine recently, but you know, here you'll see in the background, Vice President, Corporate Partnerships and Business Development. Just say what you do. Make sure you've included in there where you're currently located. So Miami, Florida for me, and then have, of course, contact information as well up to date in the title. Now, a headline. This is important, right? So back to what we had here, Vice President, Corporate Partnerships and Business Development. Other people sometimes like to have something a little bit more of a story kind of teller type approach. So this particular title that we see here on screen, this lady is a data-driven marketer helping retailers personalize campaigns in North America. Okay, so think about how you want to sell yourself to your community and really think about what title is going to resonate best. Sometimes we want to keep it a little bit closer to the corporate and then elaborate. And in other times, I totally see the benefit of actually going with something a little bit more abstract like this one, data-driven marketer. Supporting businesses with their social media strategies, supporting businesses tell their story, something more abstract. And so definitely can see the use case there between using a title as in a corporate title versus something a little bit more abstract. This is a great example. So Swish Goswami, he's Canada's top 20 under 20 and young entrepreneur of the year, a UN youth ambassador, a TEDx speaker, and a venture capitalist based in Vancouver, Canada. Okay, so actually what he's managed to communicate there is 4 core roles. I certainly would like to meet Swish. I mean, he sounds pretty accomplished. So some just really awesome information that he's been able to communicate there in his title, right? And he could have just put something in there around venture capitalist or senior director or senior partner venture capitalist, but I wouldn't have gotten the color that I'm getting from the description that he's got on here. He's got an awesome photo. And actually what you'll see at the top here, just kind of blurred in the background, is what we call the cover photo. And actually 80% of people are leaving the cover photo blank. And that's a big mistake. So think about changing that cover photo away from the default. So it shouldn't be the blue one. It's kind of basic. We should be changing it. And think about something in the background on that cover that really reflects, again, what you stand for or what your business stands for. So if you're in digital marketing, you're going to have something that is digital. If you have a business related to yachting and to boats and interior design, you might have something beautiful and aesthetic related to your business. If you're in trade and supply chain, you might have something as cheesy as it might sound as a port or some kind of shipping boat, but something that allows the individual through a beautiful, not pixelated, very sharp image to understand what it is that you're delivering. You know, if you've got a wonderful coaching business, you might want to include your logo or some kind of abstract photo of you in some, you know, sofa or even a Zoom environment coaching one-on-one, 2 talking heads, 1 talking to the other. So just think about your industry, what it is that you're selling, and how that cover photo can just aim in that rapid recall of what it is that you stand for. Final example here from Carsten. He's communicating 3 core messages. So he's a B2B SaaS growth and content marketeer on a mission to close the digital knowledge gap. He does event marketing and event tech. So the reality here, everyone, is he's probably doing events. but it actually kind of sounds far more sophisticated and far more elevated to have given this kind of description that he's giving. So again, I just challenge you all during or after today's session to go away and think what it is that you want to include in there. Remember, this is what's going to come up on LinkedIn. This is what's going to come up on search in Google. This is what your clients and your associates are going to see first, okay? So really think solidly about those messages. And again, not to labor the point, but the cover photo here is an event, right? And maybe, I'm sure this was an event pre-COVID, it must have been, but again, it talks about kind of his ability to bring people together. Okay, and obviously he's very comfortable working with founders, creators. We see that there on the screen. So lots of kind of subliminal messaging going on here in the profile. Choose what works best for you. There's no right or wrong headline formula to follow. Make it different, make it bold. And actually, if you have a blog or a website or a direct-to-consumer type model, you might want to mention that URL or that website or that page in your headline. So I know certainly in the fashion business, in individuals that kind of are moving merchandise, again, back to supply chain, often they'll be including some of their website addresses and or other social channels like Instagram in their profile headline, okay? So really there's no one size fits all, but you've got to invest some time and some energy in getting this right. Now, moving on to summarizing your story. So after we've gotten the photo and the headline correct, this is your chance to give what I would call a 30-second elevator pitch about what it is that you're doing. You've got to write this in first person. You never use bullet points in this section. And you're really trying to make the skills and experience that you talk about further down in your profile relevant to your industry and to your current job, okay? Now, people say to me, well, how do I do this? You've really got to communicate 4 things. Passion, the background as to who you are in your career up until now, your company that you're representing or that you founded, and also a call to action, okay? So they're the 4 key points you want to get into a really strong summary section. Now, this is by no means the best, but it's solid. This is actually an old one of mine that I'm happy to share here on the screen. So it goes along the lines of Vice President with 11 years of financial services experience across these geographies. I want to then communicate that I'm confident working and speaking in Spanish, English, and Portuguese, that I have experience leading teams. I've worked in marketing and digital strategy, and that actually in my spare time, which there isn't much of, I'm studying for my master's in organizational psychology. So that, frankly, is what I want to communicate to somebody up top in my profile that they see first thing. Now, the reality is that when we then do Google search on a name, basically the algorithm, and it's not even the algorithm, the way that your profile is displayed, it cuts about half of this. So my golden rule is you want all of the best information in the first half of this section, in this paragraph. So mine, I think, stops at Portuguese. So what I'm able to communicate is, okay, I've worked around the world, I'm international, I speak these languages. That's what I'm able to get across on a generic Google search of who I am as a professional. When somebody then goes on my LinkedIn profile, they see the entire paragraph. This is around about the length that you want. If anything, I'm probably about 4 or 5 words over what I would think is optimum. So I probably need to go back in and crop this. But you need this about section. You need this summary section because it really tells your audience what it is you're all about. Now, what I love to do as well, because one thing is telling people with words, another thing is actually showing them with actions. These 4 little images that you can see under here is where we start to talk about rich media. And later in the presentation, when we start moving into slightly more intermediate and advanced, and we've done with the basics, you're going to see the importance of posting articles and short, snappy posts on your profile. And there's a way of tagging past work to your profile. So there's been a couple of blog entries that I've done. There's been some charity partnerships here in South Florida. There's been a product launch that I was involved in that's gone to a press release externally that I have tagged against my about section. So for somebody that doesn't know me at all, again, they get to see this line and then they get to actually click on one of these 4 different areas and actually see me and my work in action, okay? So please, any questions about headlines, or titles, we kind of use that word interchangeably, or the about section or summary section, again, they're the same thing. Please raise those in the chat, and we'll get to those at the end, okay? Now, work experience needs to be up to date. So many people will actually only focus on the title, the years, and the location, and they leave all of this description totally blank. Not cool. Something else I see as well very frequently is somebody that's worked for a company for 20, 30, 40 years, and they've got one company listed and their initial job or their most recent job. So the profile shows that they've been, you know, a senior trade and supply chain manager for 36 years. Now, I'm sure there's some people out there that have held the same job for that long. I think there's more people out there that are lazy on their LinkedIn and actually haven't gone in and shown that every 2 to 3 to 4 years they've evolved, they've been promoted, they have a new responsibility. And so the trick there is to break it down as if it was a new job with the set dates every single time you move on. Now, that might sound like work, but let's get real. If we're only moving jobs every 2, 3, 4 years, all we're saying is 5 minutes of time. Every time we change jobs, go in your profile and get it updated, right? It feels like a pretty good investment. And people sometimes say to me, well, you know, I'm doing this, I'm doing my CV, my resume. I actually feel like we need to be spending more and more time on our LinkedIn and less time worrying about our resumes. This is where people are going to find out and do a little espionage on you before doing business with you. So again, invest that energy in LinkedIn. We still need a really awesome resume, but actually I think in the past what people would do is copy and paste, right? And I'm hoping there's lots of people nodding here at home. They would copy and paste their resume into their LinkedIn. We're all guilty of that at some stage. And now I think it's the other way around, where we should have our LinkedIn so beautifully curated that it's so easy to copy and paste from our LinkedIn back over to our resumes, okay? So a little bit of color. Again, you want to put in here in the description where you were working, who you're working with, the level of stakeholders you were working with, the clients, name projects you've worked on, use numbers. You know, again, there's definitely a statistic out there. I'm not going to quote it now around, you know, profiles and descriptions that are using numbers. People just believe that more, right? So just if we can include statistics, numbers, percentages, percentage growth in revenues, in profits, in clients acquired, customer acquisition, include all of that in your description. And again, we get back here, these images, you'll see I've got 8 on my last job, 8 different areas that I'm proud of, which again, link through to a website that I've built, content that I'm responsible for, press releases that mention my name, YouTube videos where I've done some kind of voiceover or some kind of custom campaign. So again, think about your projects. I'm going to use Fernanda again as an example. If she's done some incredible international interior design project, or just worked on some incredible yacht somewhere in the world, you want to include visuals, videos, teasers, beautifully curated brochures, one pages, whatever content that you have from an incredible project that you're proud about, you have to include it here to kind of back up and sum up the awesome work that you're doing. And the same goes for any industry. Some of you that are out there that might be working in a industry where you're thinking to yourself, well, where do I get hold of imagery that's sexy or different or that is suitable to go on LinkedIn? I challenge you all. I've worked with so many people across so many different industries, and we've always been able to find great content to share. So if you're an economist, you're sharing economic outlooks. If you're in marketing, you're sharing beautiful creative. If you're in design, you're sharing the before and afters. So there's just a whole world of stuff that we can be sharing on here and collating. And so again, think of this as kind of the content ecosystem. You're sharing a lot of your stuff on your website, on your B2B website, but you're also taking that and linking it appropriately to the jobs and the work experience within LinkedIn, okay? Now, remember the expanded view. So again, LinkedIn's kind of chopping me off here after 2 paragraphs. I've actually gone in recently and cropped it because this full view is a little too long. I've chopped about 3 lines off here, but you'll see how I go through who I've worked with. There's some numbers. I've not mentioned client names but definitely open to that. Sometimes appropriate in corporate world to talk about who you're reporting or working with. And then I always love to include who you're supporting, who you're involved with in the local community, okay? Now, remember, this is like a bit of a warning here, the activity summary. And we're gonna come back to look at the posts and articles, as we've said, but everything that you comment, everything that you like, everything that you share is being stored in this section. What that means is a potential client and or a recruiter can go in and see every single thing you've said. So I think here is just a little bit of a word of warning of there's certain things that should be said on LinkedIn. So you can miss colleagues, you can tell somebody nice job, you can thank somebody for a great session, and you can share your content, but stay away from political commentary, stay away from negative comments. This just isn't the forum to do it. And I've seen so many really complex exchanges between people that, again, get into this very political territory. And I'm just not a fan of that on LinkedIn. And I don't think anyone is. So, you know, the person that puts it out there might put it out there very innocently, but actually they're going to get some real kind of, you know, individuals coming back commenting on it negatively. You're not going to get the engagement you're thinking of when you put stuff like that out there. So the bottom line is just don't do it. Don't post it, don't comment on it. That's my golden rule when it comes to anything political, and that goes for anything sensitive. Just kind of try and keep everything on here positive where possible and professional. And I've seen lots of great content around COVID, which clearly isn't a positive subject, but just ways in which people are doing new engagements, new ways of working, new team building efforts, new ways of doing business. Those stories are fabulous and should be shared, but kind of real morbid statistics and real doom and gloom stuff, stay away from it on LinkedIn. That's the golden rule. Charity and giving back. Again, whatever you're involved in, you've got to get it on here, right? So if you're volunteering with a local outreach group, a local hospital, whether you're working with school children and through like a partnership, junior achievement or virtual enterprise or mentoring and coaching young adults, or whether you've got kind of a passion project that you're involved in, again, helping the community. There's an example here of one of mine with Maven Leadership Collective. So whatever you're doing to engage, even if it's in the past, because people say to me, well, I did this great project 5 years ago, put it on there, update it. It should be in here. And so again, people want to see a well-rounded profile of an individual that's likable, that they could work with, that they want to approach. And the amount of commentary that comes off this section in particular for me is huge. So there's so many people that will reach out and say, how can I get involved in this? Do you need any more volunteers? How can I donate money to this particular cause? You'd be surprised. Actually, people would rather engage over topics like this than anything else. So again, make sure that this section is completed and included. And if you've got old stuff that you've done that you're super proud of, you must include it. And again, it goes under volunteer experience in the tool, okay? And this is just me saying you can go back as far as you want. So I've got something on here back to high school in 2006. Now, educational background isn't necessarily just your degree. So a lot of people will put on here that they studied at their university. They're very proud of their alma mater, just as they should be. And we're going to kind of talk about how you do that in just a second. But then people don't include awesome courses, awesome certificates, diplomas that they've studied. So this is just an example of one where it was like a 6-month-long program, something very different to what I'd done at undergrad. And again, including in what you've studied, where you've studied, and again, some imagery is really powerful. I think this is sending the message that you're a lifelong learner, that you're somebody that's constantly evolving. And by the way, it doesn't have to be the traditional academic subjects. If you're now a master in mindfulness, or if you've taken a coaching certificate, or if you're now a website developer, you should be including that. You should be proud of the skills that you've earned. You should be proud of continuing to develop and learn, and that should be included in your profile. Again, any master's degrees, I would always suggest including out the modules. Different ways to do that. You could do it as a list. You could actually kind of create a little bit of a narrative as well. So there's no right or wrong answer. It's just including, again, some additional information and color on what it is that you've studied during your educational background. Just make sure, again, that all of the dates are up to date, that are all relevant. And again, don't be afraid to go in there and add educational experience and certificates from 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Lots of people include on here as well project management certificate. So they're a Scrum Master, they are an Agile transformational executive, they've done Prince or Prince 2 and all of these wonderful project management type programs. They should be included as well in your profile. Recommendations. I think anyone 10 years into their career should have at least 20 recommendations. Now, these can take different forms. So in a B2B brand, these could be colleagues of yours, they could be clients. You also, in the case of kind of direct sales, could be having clients advocate for you in here. And remember, this isn't a recommendation for recommendation. So you might be recommending somebody because they've reached out and asked you for something, but they might not feel comfortable at this stage because you're new in the relationship recommending you. Think about what works for you, your business, your brand. But again, you must have some great recommendations in here. And my tip is to be asking for 5 to 10 of those a year, right? Probably around about the 5 mark. So you want to be constantly adding to this repository of recommendations. Again, a corporate profile of somebody 20, 30 years into their career that doesn't have recommendations. It's not that I'm skeptical, but I'm a little bit like, oh, okay, I guess they're a one-man band. They're doing their thing on their own. And it's not that I think they're not a team player. It's just really lovely to see individuals that you've worked so closely with advocating on behalf of you. For our audience today, a lot of senior execs I can see connected on today's call. Internships probably aren't a thing, but I include this on here. I know many of you have younger children or children that are entering the work world. And so again, I get asked the question, when is the time to do a LinkedIn profile? I think around about 17, 18 years old is the perfect age. High school students nowadays are involved in incredible activities. They're interning, they have side jobs, side hustles. They are monetizing LinkedIn and TikTok. They have cool things to be talking about on LinkedIn. And then of course, when they go to university, they're involved with wonderful groups and fraternities and sororities and just involved in stuff. And it lends itself nicely to content that can be shared within the LinkedIn platform. And that goes for internships as well. So it's never too young to start with a profile. Now, posting. Think creatively about posts. So again, I recommend always at least a post a week. You don't want to be spamming your audience. So again, I never recommend more than 2 or 3 posts a week because frankly, you're not going to get great engagement. Now, when I went to go back to study at grad school, I did something on Instagram, and actually it was appropriate to then reshare that on LinkedIn. That won't always be the case, but when something is kind of like business casual, nice message, might even have an emoji, but the tone is kind of right, it's fine to do literally a screenshot and paste it across. Why am I saying that? Because again, many of you out there are running your businesses, you're running at 1,000,000 miles an hour, you're not a content marketing firm, you don't have time to be doing an Instagram, doing a website, doing a LinkedIn profile. So think cleverly about how you can transfer these core messages across your Facebook, your Instagram, your LinkedIn profiles and cross-pollinate. It's not always going to work, but sometimes it really does. So when I've mentioned rich media today, that's what I've been talking about. I've been talking about videos, so a 1-minute video. I've been talking about posts. I've been talking about imagery and articles that all are added to your profile that help tell a story. People say to me, what's the difference between one and the other? A post is a short, snappy, very easily digestible, consumable message. It could be something about, a photo with a client, or even a snapshot of a Zoom conversation with a client and something like, hey, had a wonderful catch up today with Fernanda and Clementina. We talked about the following issues that our businesses are facing, and we've agreed that we're going to work on said issue together. What great teamwork, lovely to be part of the US-Mexico Chamber of Commerce community. That's a post accompanied by a simple photo. An article is is what we would call in the marketing world thought leadership. And an article is far more thought out. It's something that you've sat down and actually spent 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour writing. It's not a sales pitch. It's something that you're proud of. And it's something that you know others are going to engage with. And by engage, it's not just about liking, but we're talking about commenting, resharing, tagging other friends, tagging other potential customers, etc. And remember, the more engaging the article, the more that you use, there's actually hashtags, and LinkedIn suggests to you to add 3 hashtags. And the reason they do that is then those hashtags help their algorithm promote it. So for example, at the moment, topics around diversity and inclusion, topics about adjusting post-COVID, topics around working in a digital environment are being heavily promoted by LinkedIn. Why? Because they know their audience want to read and consume articles on those subjects. So just think carefully what you're writing about. It's a little bit like becoming your own news broadcaster and news creator, frankly. You're thinking about what is relevant for your audience. You know, article hacks and tips here. You know, the internet, as we've said already, is plagued with trolls. And so LinkedIn has very few of them, but be respectful of other people's content. Talk about positive reflections, positive commentary. Obviously, if you don't agree with something and you want to give a thought out, challenging type approach, that's fine too. But don't go in for a full on attack on somebody else's LinkedIn content. It's just not the platform to be doing it. And then, you know, remember, you can go in and update and add to an article. So you might want to change the headline, change the photo, change some of the subtitle and text. And you'll start to realize as you start to post these articles and become more confident with it, of what is working and what is resonating with your audience. Okay, so you'll get more comfortable with it. So just try and start getting into the rhythm of posting, and both posts and articles. You know, we said 1 to 2 posts a week. If you're a typical B2B executive, I would suggest an article a month. That would be a great challenge. So if anything out of today's session, I'd say 2 posts a week. So that's 8 a month. And then 1 article a month. That's really awesome to start with. That way you're putting on, I'm going to do some basic maths here, 96 posts a year and 12 articles. That's 100 things. That's something every 3 days. That feels right. That's lovely. It's a great cadence. Somebody's going to reach out to you. They're going to engage with it. You're going to have old high school and graduate friends reach out, want to engage. It's going to create a nice community feel. I think that's a really doable number. The posts, as we said, could take 5-10 minutes to create. An article might take 30 minutes, 45 minutes, depending on how quickly you formulate the idea. So not a huge investment of time for quite maximum reward, frankly. So an article versus a post. So this is a post. This is at a gala. It's a charity event. You're saying you're proud to be a part of something. It's capped at about 400 words, 500 words. Normally, I would suggest doing far less because again, LinkedIn will crop it at 3 lines. So just keep it short and sweet. Get your message across. And remember, go in and look at how many people have seen your post, how many people have interacted, how many people have liked. That can work for a charity event. It also can work for a business development type opportunity. So if you're out on the West Coast visiting some tech company, or again, you're on Zoom in today's environment, closing some awesome deal, quick screenshot, quick image, tidy it up, crop it, some great commentary on top. It creates an awesome post. Again, a fun business meeting. So here, celebrating World Pride at the New York Stock Exchange. Again, just appreciating, thanking, sharing. There's colleagues that are tagged in there, creating a community, creating a dialogue online. These are all great examples of posts. You know, sharing is great as well, but don't always be a sharer. Okay? So you need to get the mix right between creating your own, like this one, and allowing others to share it, and then sharing other people's as well. And you can share other people simply by sharing. You could add in some hashtags. You could add in some, I don't normally do the hashtags. So this one on the screen is a bit of an odd one for me, but I would normally just add 2 or 3 lines of commentary about saying I'm happy to have been involved in a particular project, activity, giving back something. So get a nice cadence between creating your own and sharing. When I reference the 2 a week, 8 a month, 96 a year posts, and the 1 article every month, I was talking about you creating that. I wasn't talking about sharing. So on the odd days that you aren't creating your own, think about sharing somebody else's. But don't be that person, like all of our mums on Facebook that are sharing, crazy cat videos and 15 of them a day. Nobody wants to be that person anymore, especially not on LinkedIn. So don't spam others. Think about what you're sharing, and reduce it really down to probably one reshare a day at the very most, okay? So we've covered a lot of ground, but in conclusion, personalize those connection requests. Don't be spamming individuals that you don't know. So include a welcome message when you do it, and try not to use those kind of generic open lines like, I hope you're well during these unprecedented times, or I see you viewed my profile. That doesn't work. Fun fact, only 1 in 10 of those in-mails, when you don't know somebody, even when there's connections in common, are actually read. 1 in 10. So you need to put a message on there that's going to cut through the noise of the rest of the sales solicitations or random requests that we get in email. Of course, respond promptly to the ones you want to respond to. We've talked about posting content regularly today as well. So we've talked about getting your profile and the basics right. And then we've talked about actually then using the profile to generate new business, new contacts, a new community. Recommendation requests, respond to them, and also request recommendations to your community and to your old colleagues and clients. Nurture those relationships just like you would in real life, right? Keep it professional. This isn't a space for drinking and lots of alcohol fueled after hours work parties. Obviously we're not doing that anymore, but in the past we've all seen some kind of photos on LinkedIn where we've just screamed a little bit and said, oh, that doesn't feel quite right. Again, don't be that person sharing that kind of content. Introduce people. So people that make a presentation, right, of that individual to others. So very simple. In the messaging function, just add in 2 names and you're going to present them and then drop off the message. As we've said, don't send spammy messages. Don't lock down your profile. So again, some people lock their profile down and I just don't get it. If you're so worried and sensitive to wanting to kind of not have a public persona and profile on LinkedIn, then don't create the profile. So I've seen this in existence. I've got some friends in the science world that are working in laboratories, and I get it. They only want to connect with like 10 people that they work with and share their academic papers and advances with that very close community. But again, unless, if you're working on something top secret, then frankly, you shouldn't be sharing it even in a lockdown environment on LinkedIn. So open up your profile. Don't ask connections or people to endorse you for skills if you don't know them. That's just the basic. Again, don't ask strangers on there for recommendations. And final one, and I think so important in the environment in which we're living at the moment, don't criticize others or comment negatively on LinkedIn. Okay? And so with that, I think that's the conclusion of today's hints and tips on LinkedIn. My goodness, we have covered a lot of ground in the past 45 minutes.
Yes.
So Fernanda, why don't we take 10 minutes to do some Q&A?
Yes, of course. Great information. I'm going to run and do all the tips that you said to my LinkedIn. I think I need it.
Good.
Well, we have a lot of questions. One of them is, can you hire someone to help you to develop your LinkedIn profile a little better?
Yeah, 100%. Lots of great people out there that are helping individuals with, curating their content on LinkedIn, that are supporting with their profiles. Is totally somebody out there. But as ever, do your research, work with somebody that has knowledge of the platform, that understands why you're doing it, right? It's very different to have a corporate profile versus an entrepreneur that's trying to use the platform to sell. So yeah, do your research well, but definitely people out there that can do that. And if somebody wants to get in touch with me and ask for a recommendation, happy to provide some names.
Yes, completely. I think I need that. Do you use hashtags like in Instagram pages in LinkedIn to attract more people?
You do. I'm not a huge fan of hashtags personally, but I do recognize that for posts and for articles on LinkedIn, it's going to help their algorithm prioritize your post, your content above others, right? So if you're doing a post around let's just think of an example around a marketing strategy. You might just want to simply do hashtag marketing strategy, hashtag digital, hashtag helping small businesses, or small business, something that's going to help get that article in front of eyeballs, organic eyeballs. And that's a really important clarification, that organic means that you're not paying LinkedIn to promote your material. And remember, a lot of brands out there, including a lot of very high profile CEOs of those brands, are paying LinkedIn so that their posts come up top. And so there's a lot of thought leaders out there, and we'll take some examples. Maybe the CEO of Apple or of Amazon, very high profile business figures, right, in American society. I'm sure that there's a lot of paid promotional dollars that are going behind those posts, and that's why they're getting 100,000 comments and 50,000 likes, etc. So the algorithm is helping you with the hashtags get the organic views that you're not paying for. So yeah, don't abuse them, I think, is the answer, Fernanda. But definitely when you're posting your content, you should be using them. If you're responding to somebody else's, no need to use them.
Great. Do you have a successful story with LinkedIn when you do you get a client? Have you get a client from there?
Yeah, I have, and many times, and I definitely have seen so many associates, clients, contacts get exactly the same. They've reached out, they've been connected on there, they're somehow trying to do business overseas. I think especially for this group that's so international, and frankly working closely with Mexico and with Latin America or with Europe, any geography, frankly, the ability to ask an existing content for a referral into a manager in a foreign market is really powerful. And I think it's a really nice way to start the conversation via LinkedIn. The way I also use LinkedIn as well is if I'm speaking with a client or a customer for the first time, I love to LinkedIn them, because as I said, you're going to find out that they're studied at the same university as you, that they've lived in Mexico. So straight away, I'm going to talk the first 5 minutes of the Zoom conversation about living in Mexico and how fabulous Mexico is, and the food and right. We're going to, we might have a charity partnership in common, or we might have a friend in common. And so it just breaks the ice on so many conversations to start with LinkedIn.
Yes, it's a completely curriculum, but more personalized. So you can get to know the person a lot better. As you
100%.
said, all the person that is hiring right now, or to see if it fits in your company, the first thing that you do is go to the social media, especially LinkedIn, to see if that person is going to be right for your company.
Yep, 100%.
It's a great platform. If you don't have too many likes, is it worse to keep posting, or?
No, but you've got to ask yourself the question, why aren't you getting the likes? So it could be one of many different reasons. It could be the fact that you don't have a large community. So you might want to think about adding more clients, associates to your community. It might be the fact that what you are posting just isn't resonating and you're not hitting the beat, so to speak, with what people are asking for. So you want to ask yourself the problem, is it a volume problem in terms of contacts? So you want to then be adding more. Or is it the fact that actually your content's not resonating, and then you've got a problem and you want to go back and actually think very deeply, very carefully about what it is you'd like to be sharing? So it could be one of the two things.
But I don't think that LinkedIn is a special, it's like a platform where you're looking at the likes mostly. It's more like another kind of pages, no?
Correct, 100%.
I have another one here. If you have 20 years of experience but not connected with people from old jobs, how can I get good recommendations?
No recommendations. I mean, again, that's a tough one, right? So we have to think creatively. So I'm always telling like grads, professors, academic professors, give great recommendations about your character and about your work ethic. If you're working with a coach, a professional coach, and we've got Kevin Hunting, our co-president of Together We Advance on today. If you're working with somebody like Kevin and he's actually giving you executive coaching, again, you might want to ask Kevin for some kind of recommendation. If you've got that professional relationship with a great coach, you've got to have a relationship with somebody, right, to ask them for the recommendation. So again, I go into your old jobs, right, and clearly, if you've sustained 20 years of a career, there has to be people that you've worked with in the past that you would feel comfortable reaching out to. And even if, again, you're clever about it, rather than asking them straight up for the recommendation, you try to engage them, you try to find out how they're getting on, what it is that they've been doing recently, build up a connection with them, and then ask them for the recommendation. I think that's the way to go about it.
Yes, and the idea is to keep in contact with all the people. Now it's super easy now with all the tools that we have to keep with our networking. You don't have to go out and meet them. Super easy to keep in contact with everyone.
Exactly.
Well, I think that is all.
I think there's just a couple more, Fernando, and I'd love just to answer a couple on here because Julio's asked some great questions, and we've got an anonymous attendee as well. So I think the anonymous question says, is it worth posting a side job that is not in the corporate world, such as a waitress or hostess? Yeah, I mean, if you've got a side hustle, a side project that you are proud of and working on, you should share it. If the side job is more out of a necessity and is different to your career background and where you're headed in the future, might not be worth including it. But again, there's no right or wrong answer. Without understanding the specific case, it's difficult to say whether to include or not. But normally I would go with the tell your full story. Include those jobs back to when, again, we weren't, none of us started as executives. We all started somewhere. So really go back into your history and share your career story and journey. So yeah, that's my answer to that one. And then Julio's saying, how about the order recommendations from LinkedIn? Should we continue to support others when prompted by LinkedIn? Yeah, 100%. So if LinkedIn's actually suggesting that you recommend somebody and you actually know them and you feel confident in giving them and you want to give them a powerful recommendation, 100% you should do it. And if you've worked closely with them, ask for one back. And then the other question from Julio here is, if modifying a profile, will that then come up in Google or other search engines? No. And actually my advice there is when you do very small, quick updates to your LinkedIn profile, turn off the auto publish, which is basically LinkedIn saying, would you like to tell everyone that you've updated your profile? Frankly, if you're updating your profile for the first time in a long while, and what you had previously was not kind of cutting it, there's no need to flag that to your audience. So I think being a little more subtle is better. Don't auto publish it so that everyone's seeing it on the LinkedIn profile. Just make the changes and know that moving forward, you're going to have an awesome profile to be proud of.
Yes. Also, they were asking if this presentation that you made is going to be posted.
Yeah, happy to post, happy to share, and we'll definitely via Clementina and the member network get this out to everyone. 100%.
Great, thank you so much, Chris. It was amazing, amazing. A lot of tips.
Thank you, Fernanda. And I've got two final ones, and I promise these are the last two, and then we'll leave it here because we've got some lovely questions here from Anna and Lucia. Starting with Anna, recommendations on combining two different skills in one profile, like marketing and financial services. Yeah, combine them. Be proud of it. Flag it in the title. Flag it in the summary. If you're doing, you're conducting a marketing job within the financial services sector, talk about that. That's B2B marketing and financial services. You should be proud of it. So definitely, I don't think anyone has one skill anymore. If COVID's taught us anything, it's to be nimble and adaptable and be prepared to make these big seismic shifts in our career. So again, explaining these two different skills that you've got, I think is perfect, Anna. So be proud about that. And if you're currently unemployed or having a gap year, how would we go about that? I think you can flag it. You can talk about having a sabbatical, taking some time out, but talk about in the description what you're doing. So are you creating your own business? Are you receiving coaching? Are you coaching others? Are you doing something academically that you're proud of? So definitely flag it. Shouldn't be hidden, but talk eloquently about what it is you're doing during that time off. So absolutely, you should include it, Lucia. Don't leave a gap. And certainly don't and it's not about lying, but don't leave your current employer on there with the dates kind of ticking on if you no longer work for them. So be proud to include that in. So I think there we're done, Fernanda. Lots of wonderful questions from everyone today.
Yes, lots of wonderful questions, Chris. And I'm glad to meet you from Zoom. I hope to meet you in person soon.
Same.
But thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah. And thank you, Clementina. Thank you, Fernanda. And on behalf of Together We Advance, myself and Kevin Hunting, who's here in the chat as well, who's an awesome coach, as I said, and a great example of how to use LinkedIn, in fact. So go and check out his profile. We thank you for being here.
We will. Thank you.
All the best. Take
Bye.
care. Bye, everyone.
You too.
Get updating the LinkedIn this weekend.
We will do.
Bye-bye.
Bye.